Hello everyone and welcome back to OrmsTV. My name is Jess. I'm the content manager here at Orms, and if you've been subscribed to this here YouTube channel for a while, then you will know that it is no secret that I am somewhat obsessed with film photography. Outside of a professional context, I have been shooting exclusively on film since 2019, and I often make videos about my favorite film stocks over here on OrmsTV. In today's video, I want to dive into a really special film type that I enjoy shooting on whenever I really feel like treating myself. Of course, I'm talking about none other than the incredible Kodak Ektar 100. Kodak Ektar 100 is a semi-professional color negative film stock, delivering a standard 36 shots per roll. While I have only ever shot with it in its 35mm format, it is also available in a 120mm roll. It has an equivalent ISO speed of 100, meaning that it is best suited to well-lit shooting conditions with plenty of available light. As with all the film stock we have discussed on this channel so far, it is daylight balanced to 5,500 degrees Kelvin, meaning that you'll achieve the most pleasing and accurate results when shooting with natural light either in or outdoors. Before we dive into the next thing, I just want to say that if you have ever shot on Ektar 100, I would absolutely love to know what your experience was like and how you found the end results. Pop that down in the comments below and you can share your insights with the rest of our community. Ektar 100 has its origins in the 1930s, when it was known as Kodak Ektar Tez R and used primarily as a cinema film stock. It was introduced to the market in 1989 as a semi-professional film stock in both 35mm and medium format form. Ektar 100 was specifically crafted to offer ultra-fine grain. In fact, when it was relaunched in September of 2008, Kodak touted it as having the finest grain of any color negative film. It is speculated that this characteristic is due to its low 100 ASA light sensitivity and high levels of saturation. More on that remarkably punchy saturation and high levels of contrast. Ektar's color pop across the entire spectrum of hues is renowned. Kodak included optimized emulsion spectral sensitivity technology and image modifier chemistry in Ektar 100. These two features mean that your images will contain incredibly vibrant and natural colors, being absolutely crystal clear and generally representing exactly what the camera captured. We're going to carry on talking about Ektar 100 in a second, but I wanted to just pause for a moment and mention that if you are enjoying this video so far, it would be fantastic if you could hit that like button. All that does is it lets us know that you want us to create more content exactly like this. So if you want to keep seeing cool film content on OrmsTV, hit that like button. In addition to its renowned fine grain, Ektar 100 delivers undeniably high image quality and acute sharpness that I have not seen matched in any of the other film stocks that I have experimented with to date. There is no haze or dimness. Provided focus is sharp and the image is properly exposed, my shots are always crisp and detailed. This is largely thanks to Kodak's integration of advanced cubic emulsions that optimize image sharpness and proprietary DRI couplers that provide fine detail and distinct edges in your images. Because of all these characteristics, Ektar 100 is beloved by commercial photographers. This also makes it incredibly versatile, being very well suited to capturing everything from fashion to products and from nature to travel photography. Its sharpness does make it ideal for shooting landscapes, however. It must be mentioned, however, that this film stock does have its drawbacks. It does not have a wide exposure latitude, largely due to the fact that it is a slower speed film. This means it cannot handle incorrect exposure or difficult lighting conditions as well as other Kodak film stocks. Incorrect exposure causes color shifts. With underexposure, the colors quickly become muddied, while overexposure will result in the colors becoming very washed out and pastel-like. Additionally, without very even and very careful exposure, your skin tones can come out very red or magenta, meaning it is a trickier choice for portrait work. While I absolutely love it, Ektar 100 is not the film stock I would recommend for beginner analog shooters. This is due to its exacting relationship with exposure. If you don't nail your exposure every single time, you're very likely to get an undesirable end result that is either very difficult or completely impossible to correct in post-processing. It is also in the more expensive price bracket, retailing for around 215 Rand a roll. This means that cost quickly becomes a problem if you have to shoot through a lot of rolls to get consistent results, which often happens when you're a newbie. Finally, beginner film photographers tend to take longer to shoot through their film, meaning they're likely to be dealing with a variety of shooting conditions while making their way through one roll. Ektar is not well suited to this scenario, as it requires consistent lighting in order to perform at its best. For my baby analog shooters out there, go with something a little bit more versatile, a little bit more forgiving, a bit more cost effective, like Fuji Color C200, Kodak Gold, Kodak Color Plus, and get comfortable with these options before trying out something a little more difficult, like Ektar. We're going to dive into an analysis of a couple of really specific images in a second to really see how Ektar performs. But before we do that, I just wanted to say that if you're a photographer, a videographer, and you want to stay up to date with the latest gear, you want to see more film videos exactly like this one, or just general educational content around creativity, filmmaking, and photography, you should probably subscribe to OrmsTV and hit that notification bell to get updated whenever we upload new videos. That is all the content that we create on this channel. To further illustrate how this film stock performs, let's dive into a brief analysis of some of the images that I have shot on Ektar. So in our first image over here, we can see how well this film stock does in well-lit shooting environments. There's a great range of contrast throughout the image, and it's looking incredibly color accurate to what the scene actually looked like. Image number 2 over here shows how this film stock performs when you're shooting indoors using natural light. We can see that it's incredibly color accurate, and there's nice detail throughout the entire spectrum of luminance. Our next image, the third one, was shot around mid-morning and outdoors, of course, using natural light. And we can see here that in this sort of shooting scenario, it also performs really well. We've got a real lovely spectrum of beautiful hues coming through, as well as wonderful contrast that really makes the image pop. This particular image really goes to showcase how fine-grained this film actually is. For example, I'm looking at it here and I can only really start to see the grain in the image when I punch in on these gray blocks in the building. This might just be my favorite image that I have ever shot on Ektar. It's of these ducks dabbling in the water, and we can really use this image to show how well this film does in terms of reproducing incredibly punchy colors and that wonderful high contrast. Image number 6 is taken at a gin distillery, and I wanted to use this one to talk a little bit about how vibrant and natural looking the colors can be simultaneously. So we can see here in the background where the gin bottle is, those red hues are coming through so strongly. They're so punchy, so attention grabbing. But at the same time, it's not sacrificing those natural qualities that we're kind of getting in the more subtle pinks. It's keeping them very mellow, very muted, and overall, this is just such a pleasing result. Image number 7 really shows off how well Ektar does at keeping your subjects nice and sharp. My friend Paige here in the front is absolutely crystal clear. It also really shows how color accurate it is to what the scene actually looked like. You won't know because you weren't there, but I can tell you that on this particular day, these are the exact sort of tones that we saw in the water. This is exactly what the sky looked like. It's even done a great job of accurately reproducing the skin tones in this case. We spoke a little bit about some of the technology that Kodak has imbued into this film stock in order to make sure that your images are tack sharp. And I see that here in image number 8, we're really seeing that come to the forefront and be showcased in its best light. The waves are super sharp and detailed. We are seeing distinct edges in the rocks over here. Overall, I just can't be more impressed with how this film performs in terms of detail. To touch a little bit on some of the drawbacks that this film stock has, if we look here at image number 9, this kind of showcases the narrower exposure latitude compared to some other film stocks. We can see here that the ground in front of this train station is almost completely detailless and black, even though I was kind of trying to evenly expose for this difficult scene. And then, you know, sort of to the right-hand side where that burst of light, the lens flare is kind of coming in, we can see that it's already hit peak white. So it's not the greatest in these sort of difficult or high contrast shooting scenarios. Image number 10 really shows what happens to an Ektar image when it is underexposed. Immediately looking at this, I can see that particularly in those shadowed areas, and even just across the whole image in general, to be honest, all of the colors are looking incredibly muddy and shifted. Image number 11 also shows incorrect exposure and what that does to the image, but in this case it happens to be overexposure. And as we mentioned earlier in the video, it really does make everything look incredibly washed out and unpleasant. And finally, image number 12. I actually really do love this image, despite the fact that I'm using it to showcase one of Ektar's drawbacks. But we can see here that Sam's skin has come out looking super red, you know, very, very pink. And that's why in, you know, slightly more high contrast shooting scenarios like this, where you will struggle to evenly expose across the image, you know, Ektar's really gonna struggle to reproduce a color accurate skin tone. Well guys, that is the end of our video about Kodak Ektar 100. I really hope that you found it informative and helpful, and it's got you inspired to go out and try create some incredible images with this fantastic film stock. Until next time, cheers.